Welcome back, everybody. Doug here with 2 Plus Tough, and while you're reforging, along with me today is one of my favorite people. He's been on the channel a few times now, right, Craig?
Yep.
Yeah, so this is Craig. Tell us about yourself, sir.
Well, as Doug said, I'm Craig. I've been on the channel quite a few times. If you haven't seen me already, I've been, I guess, still new to Age of Sigmar. It's only been like 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It depends how you define new, I guess. I mean, the game's only 4 years old, right? Or 4 or 5, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm intermediate.
There you go. Yeah, just like the rest of us. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, you and I are going to talk about kind of our main topic for the day is talking about meeting engagements in Age of Sigmar. And I also have another interview followed up with a patron over in England. And so that's going to be kind of fun. Yeah, but we're going to kick off the show like we always do, talking about hobby progress, or like stuff that we're working on. So I have rotating guests, so just tell us what you've been doing, say, the last week or so.
Last week I finished up my second Keeper of Secrets that I have. I try to make it look like it's invading the Storm Vault in Olgu.
Ooh.
And then I've recently kit bashed together some Demonettes from Harlequin models. I have Demonettes with the Harlequin heads and swords, and Harlequins with Demonettes heads and claws and swords. The Harlequins with the Demonette parts kind of look like pirates.
I love it.
So I added an eye patch to the leader and a little bird on its shoulder. Pretty awesome.
Sweet. Oh, you know what? And I totally cut you off on earlier. Where can people go to see such cool models that you made?
Oh, I have an Instagram, Mars Mini Painting. Go all one word. Just type it up. Go ahead and give me a follow and everything. I like chatting to anybody on there too. So feel free to message me.
Community driven. Yeah, you do a great job over there. Sweet. Okay, right on. So you got Demonette Harlequins sounds awesome. The Harlequins from 40K if folks aren't familiar with that, but
yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's just I just pointed out because like they're just such dynamic models. If you haven't looked at that range, just go do it. Do yourself a favor. I
almost want to just build an army of them.
Are they
so cool looking?
Are they any good? I don't know anything about 40K right now.
I know they're good in Kill Team from what everybody keeps telling me.
Yeah, I guess Kill Team. I played a little bit of that. I could see them being good, the high mobility and that kind of stuff. So for sure. Sweet. Anything else besides those? I mean, I know that's a lot.
No, that's. I'm just trying to get through it. I got so many Demonettes now. I was trying to supplement my army with mortals, and it's just I feel like you can't do a mixed Demonette mortal Slanesh army too well at the moment.
Well, we can talk about games played in a bit, but I saw Jack do it today. Jack from Rerolling Ones. He threw some bunch of Chaos Warriors in, and I think that's mainly there because they're 2 wounds each. They kind of act as a little bit of a bunker. But you're right in the sense of being like combat effective. It leans so heavily in the favor of Contorted Epitome and what are their demon princes? The big guys. Keeper of Secrets. Yeah. Like that's where all the power is.
Yeah. That's why I'm building a whole bunch of Demonettes so they can just be in the way so my Keeper can swoop in afterwards.
Exactly, yeah. That's what they're great for, yeah. So, sweet. Okay. I love it. So for me, it's been a little while since I recorded. Scheduling's been kind of crazy around the house. But for me, what have I been doing? I've been painting a lot. I kind of got into a little hobby funk more fairly recently, and so I was like, how do I break this? And basically it just came down to like I need to paint a whole bunch of different stuff just to kind of, I don't know, not paint Stormcast all day, every day. And so I think I cranked out 8 Warhammer Underworlds teams, warbands. So kind of went nuts on that game. But beyond that, that's the bulk of it. And actually, I went to a game day for a local gaming group that does competitive play. Played a few games we'll talk about, but it really reinvigorated my love for my Stormcast. So actually, in front of me right now, I have 6 Gryphounds. So I can use them in AOS and also, of course, in Warcry. They use Gryph-hounds as well.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Just in time, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was something I was very excited about. So like we can jump into that here in a sec. So awesome. So that's it for hobby talk. Yeah, slow. I mean, well, I can't say I really slowed down with hobby because I cranked out a lot of warbands.
Yeah. Just not specifically AOS hobby.
Yeah, and even but even then, I was thinking about it. Like,
You can take them.
yeah, for that's I mentioned it in the video, and I'm going to definitely come back to it once we know like how Warcry works as far as like the existing armies. Like we don't really know a ton about their cards and that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I was going to come back to the idea of like, I mean, the Zarbags Gits warband is the Shadespire box is a Warcry warband. It's amazing, and so there's a diverse range of models, all different sculpts, and so very super excited about that one actually. How that panned out.
I didn't look at any of the Destruction Warcry warbands. I didn't realize they were in there.
Yeah, there's Ironjaws, Bone Splitters, and Gloomspite Gits.
Nice.
So if you ever want to try out Warcry without investing a ton of money, you buy one box of Bone Splitters and you're set for life. That's an entire army.
Oh, I was about ready to grab a box. I was going to grab a few boxes since Kelly's just picked up a whole bunch of them. That's also something I was doing. I've been painting a lot of the orcs for Bone Splitters.
Really?
Yeah, she got 1,500 points off someone for like dirt cheap before that book was announced.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of that. I actually have 30 more boys sitting in a box right now. Just kind of waiting. Just because I was kind of in that painting funk, and I was like, you know what I don't want to do when I already don't want to paint is paint 30 more boys. So that's cool. But that's a sweet deal. God for y'all.
I think I got through like 15 of them. I was like, as much fun as it is putting their cool little tattoos on them and everything, I'm taking a break.
No, you'll lose your mind.
So I jumped straight into like 40 demonettes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Pick your poison.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about some games played. Did you play any games recently?
Yes, I've played. Obviously, we're going to talk about some media engagements.
Yep.
But I've been playing against my friend John recently because down at the local watering hole, it's kind of not many people are showing up. So I didn't want to have me or Kelly sitting out of games during the week. So my friend John's been coming over to the house.
Cool.
And he's been bringing his Skaven, and we've been trying a few different lists. He's beaten me a few times. I've beaten him. Do not take all the Vermin Lords at one time, we've learned. Because he tried that list.
Just multiple big targets to crank it?
Yeah. Yeah, he's still trying to figure out which ones he wants to get. So he's like, we proxied in a whole bunch of big ones to try it out. And he's like, let's just see how they do. And he just ran them in. I'm like, some of these guys are supposed to be support from what I've seen. But okay, just run them in.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. They're not powerhouses, but they're, absolutely. Yeah. They're not supposed to be support. Yep.
It's pretty fun. I've enjoyed playing against Skaven. Realized he's kind of new to AOS, but he built some interesting and deadly lists. I was like, oh, I need to not take it so casually, right?
Yeah, I need to crank it up a bit.
Yeah, because like the first game I played against him, I was like, I'll go easy and just cleared the board. I'm like, oh, that's how we gonna play. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's honestly, that's a thing that I'm very much guilty of. I played some games today, and I was just like looking around. I was like, these guys, they're not even being hyper competitive. I just need to spice up my army a little bit. Like, it's not even about them.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, so that was your games played. That sounds awesome. Any more you want to talk about, or is that pretty much it?
I really want the Chaos War Shrine to do more. I love the model, and I love what it does. I want it to be threatening in a fight. It did nothing to like storm vermin at all.
Yeah. I just wanted to have a prayer list, like a solid bank of abilities to tap into.
I found that very weird that a war shrine to gods didn't have any prayers. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, well, for me, I played 2 games today, and it was actually the first games I played in a long time, too long, as a matter of fact. Basically, I just like kind of got into a funk, and so I was like, you know what? There's some guys doing a game day, and they're like prepping for tournaments, but they invited me just to come and hang out. I was like, I'm gonna go play and get my face stomped in by tournament players and have fun.
Yeah.
And so I went and 2 games. First game was, well, actually, I brought my Stormcast, and both games happened to be against Stormcast.
So like a giant Stormcast party. I love it.
Yeah, what's funny is they all own multiple armies, but because they're going to there's a local GT coming up called T-Shift. It's a big convention thing out in this area. And so they're all prepping for that. So it's all of their tournament armies, even though they usually play other stuff like locally. So it's just funny, like it just happened that everyone's just like, bam, Stormcast. But yeah, so first game was against a gentleman who is pretty much like, if my life was Pokemon Red and Blue, he would be Gary, like my rival, like just at this like perfect skill level and army list kind of thing of like, you know, really, really good player, really smart when it comes to movement and how to play the game, and he's very tactical, but also just plays stuff because he likes the models, you know, which is exactly it's who I am. Like I'm not bad at Age of Sigmar. I just make bad choices with list building because I want to play cool stuff.
More fun that way.
Yeah, kind of. You know, like his big thing was he invested we'll say a dearth of points in evocators on Dracoline, which are not bad models at all, but they're not the most hard hitting thing because you can shoot them off the table.
Yeah.
Sometimes with impunity. So yeah, played against him, and that one we did Scorched Earth, and it came down to 18 was my score to 19. He eked it out by 1 point, which, you know, if I'm gonna lose, that's the best way to lose, when it's like down to the wire. And so I love that stuff. That made my day.
Can't say it was a bad game at that point.
No, I had an absolute. We were just chatting about it for quite a while. It was an absolute blast. And then the second game, so like the first game, the guy, you know, I said was like me, takes random stuff because he wants to, and that's awesome. The second game was against Andrew, who is a tournament player, high level, and his Stormcast kicked the ever-loving snot out of me. We played the translocation or relocation orb, whatever it is, that point that bounces around the map.
New one or the old one?
The new one, yeah.
I haven't tried the new one.
So his Stormcast list is interesting, where it's a big Lord Celestin on Dracoth surrounded. He has a block of 20 Sequitors, all buffed to the heavens. And I was like, oh, he invests a lot of points in this one thing. It's all I'll just kind of dance around the board, be kind of mobile. I have like translocate on my Lord Relictor. I'll just go around and snag objectives. That thing smashed into me so hard that I didn't even have an army left. I was like, oh, okay, never mind. So that was more educational though, and I wanted to play against him because I don't make the best army choices, and so it was cool to like see someone who's better at Stormcast than me, and then I can ask questions.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had a great time with both games. One was definitely more fun, like down to the wire. We were laughing and trading jokes, and the second one was far more educational. So, both were super rewarding for various reasons, and thought that was pretty cool. So, with all of that stuff out of the way, is there anything news and noteworthy? We don't really like stay up to date. This isn't like Dateline where we stay up to the last minute. So, what's been coming out soon, or what you're hyped for?
I want those snake people. I want them bad.
The Warcry snake pokes.
Yeah, I want to turn them into my Chaos Warriors because I hate the Chaos Warrior models so much.
You know, I was actually talking about that with Jack, where it's like, are the Warcry warbands, like, are they amazing? Because they all have actual Age of Sigmar war scrolls, and it's a definitive no.
No.
But are they better versions of Slaves to Darkness? Yes. They are better. Yeah, absolutely. So what is it about the snake people that it draws you to them?
Well, so I originally I liked them because they would fit with like a Slanesh army. Then Cypher Lords came out. I was like, oh, they would make a way better Slanesh army, but I couldn't get over the fact but they're mostly Tzeentch, and I'm like, you had to put that in there. Everybody else was, not dedicated to any god, but so I fell back onto the snake people because Slanesh and serpents tend to be its thing.
Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And the unmade just creeped me out.
I don't know what it is. I don't like the unmade. And
I right there with you.
I don't. I like that other people like them. And it's one of those things. Like I like horror. Like horror is one of my favorite things. I like this genre and if you were to say to me, like, hey Doug, what about an army where they rip their faces off and they wear them as belts and they replace parts of their body with like these horrific, talons and metal claws, I'd be like, yes, sign me up. I'm in. Shut up and take my money. But then for some reason, when all those things are put together and I see the models, I'm like, eh.
Yeah, it's just. I feel like it was just like it was an attempt at being horrific, but just trying to go above and beyond, like try to push the line with it. And I was like, this is just creepy.
Okay, people, but tone it in.
Yeah. It's creepy, but not in the scary, creepy way. Just like this, I'm a little embarrassed. Like high school me would have thought of this and thought it would have been really cool.
Aww. Well, you know what? That's fair. I'm sorry. I'm just looking for paints. So.
Oh, you're good. That's just my feelings on it. I know people love them and everything, and more power to you. I'm just
not your jam.
Yeah,
that's completely fair. Let's see. Okay, so you're excited for Snake People. For me, what's coming out that I'm really... I mean, Warcry is definitely... I would say that I'm far less over 2K games. Like, I had fun today in a way that recharged my batteries. But I am looking forward to smaller skirmish-style stuff, and that definitely excites me. In particular, my favorite Warcry warband that I want to come out soon is the Corvus Cabal, the Bird Boys.
Yeah.
Without question, they are the ones that strike me as the most interesting.
They are really, really nice models.
Yeah. And if you've read, or you can listen to my review of it, War Queen, the novella that came out a while back.
Yeah, I remember.
There's a chaos guy who has like avian, I don't know, appendages strapped to him, and he has a bird sewn into his chest. All this weird, macabre stuff around birds, and it kind of like fits almost, from what we know, like the lore bits they've shared, almost perfectly with what you see in the model. So I wonder how far back that was planned. But yeah, no, they look savage. I just like it. So
I also wanted them, but I was like, so much bird iconography. I don't know how I'd make that Slanesh either.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily. You can just replace it. I mean, you can kit bash up to high heavens if that's something you.
Oh, but I love the way the birds look.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and close out the news section. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about news-wise?
I think that's all we got coming out lately is just Warcry. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm not a Sylvaneth player, so
who is anymore? Hot take. Anyway, so okay, we'll go ahead and close out the news section, and we'll take a little break. Come right back after a word from our sponsor, and Craig and I will jump into talking about meeting engagements. Hi, I'm Devror Fletcher with Fletcher & Sons, licensed attorney in both Akshi and Giran. Has some lightning deity incorporated you into his deathless army without your permission? You may be eligible for settlement. Get the cash that you deserve. After watching the destruction of my friends and family, I was looking forward to finally having some peace and quiet to read and garden, but Sigmar stole me away from that life. Well, Fletcher & Sons, they got me 6,000 rubies. Devror Fletcher's got your back. Don't suffer an extremely hellish existence of death and rebirth for another moment. Come to Fletcher & Sons and get the mortal and financial independence you deserve. All right, everybody, we are back. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm here talking with Craig, like I said, about meeting engagements. And so, what we're going to do, I kind of break this down, is we're going to start with kind of our high-level thoughts about the, what we thought they were going for, things we like, and of course, there are criticisms. If you've read the format, we'll give a brief overview of it, and then talk about ways that we think it can be built upon. It seems very foundational, but there's a lot of cool directions it could go. And so let me pass the buck over to you. Craig, what do you think about meeting engagements?
I'm they're lackluster overall.
Okay.
I think.
Super fair. Yeah. Jumping in with both feet. I dig it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I played a few games and I liked how fast they were.
Mm-hmm.
It was very simple to set up, but I think that they missed the mark.
Okay.
100% to keep it interesting.
Totally. And so, yeah. Actually, I probably should go backwards and say, if you don't know what it is, it's basically a 1,000-point game format, where you build up the list for 1,000 points. You break your army into 3 pieces, like they come on different times, and there's a lot of format changes to make 1,000 points like a viable game format. As far as my overarching ideas, I definitely agree. It for the amount of excitement they drew to it, it feels very incomplete. It feels like something that would have been released when AOS first started and there was no points, honestly, where there's a whole lot of like empty space for you to do whatever you want, and that's cool for some people, not for everybody. And so let's see here, what do they call? So basically you build a 1,000-point army, you break that into 3 what do you call them, I don't know, waves. There's the spearhead, the main body, and the rear guard. Those names imply that the spearhead comes in first, the main body comes in second, and the rear guard comes in third. However, that's not actually true, because some of the missions have you come in different order, which is awkward and weird. So it's a little bit strange. There's some restrictions. I won't go into the weeds about the restrictions on like what can be inside each thing, but expand upon why you think they kind of missed the mark.
I mean, so if you take a 1,000-point game and you look at it like meeting engagements, there's nothing. The only thing that's differentiating it really is the smaller battlefield and the how the limitations on what you can take, and I guess the staggered deployment. But there's a whole battle plan that you can take with open war to have a staggered deployment.
Mm-hmm.
So you really just have those 2 things, and it's not interesting. Like the objectives, it feels like you just play a 1,000-point game with the same objectives. I was expecting more like go hunt down a general or grab an objective and move it to a certain place type of thing, because it felt like you're trying to have like skirmishes instead of full on battles.
Yeah, I get that. More like I think, what do they call it in 40k? Capture the Relic, where you'd run up and you'd fight over control over an item or something like that, and like a unit would pick it up. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. I agree that the missions do feel like I don't have a problem with the missions themselves. It's just that, like you said, they're not different than the 2K, competitive format. So I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Let's see what else. What do you think about the whole like splitting your army into 3 pieces?
That part I'm fine with. If they it's just it feels very samey still. Like even if they come in at different times or anything, like I was expecting a little more narrative stuff with it to make it a little more interesting with each battle plan, and then you set up and build your army around that battle plan that you're going to go into, instead of here set up your army and then here's a battle plan and you just might be downriver without a paddle type of thing. Because
it's an interesting thing, because like I understand why they didn't put it in matched or open play, because those are things that you don't have to use points, right? The open play is whatever you want. Narrative is the story's first, so that can make things asymmetrical.
Yeah.
But they put it in matched play, and so but the problem is when you put something in matched play, like people expect a certain level. We as customers have been kind of trained and demand a certain level of balance, but that kind of pushes away from the idea of having those kind of like more fun, wacky missions, which I prefer.
Yeah,
But
me too.
so everything is perfectly symmetrical. You're fighting over very clear, measurable objectives, and I think because of that, it doesn't. It's one of those things like it loses a bunch of flavor, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not a different enough format to have its own like unique taste to it versus 2K games.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, well, why would we do this? We could just play 1,000 points of match play without using meeting engagements, because you can still do a Vanguard game of actual Age of Sigmar.
I mean, that's what me and my friends all decided to do. Was,
Yeah.
yeah, like, why don't we just play 1,000 points?
Right,
and
exactly.
not do all this, and we can take whatever we want with no
Yep.
restrictions.
Yep.
The
I can totally get that. Go ahead.
the balance thing too. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because I was playing Slanesh and people say they're super broken, but I didn't even bring a super killy list for some of them. It was just because the first time I brought a Keeper of Secrets because I'm going to put it on the table.
Right.
But the other ones I didn't bring a Keeper of Secrets, and it just felt like once you get like a firm grasp on that lead, it's just going to run away with you. It didn't feel very very balanced. Maybe it was the other armies I was facing, but on their list, but it felt very like once I took the lead, I was good. I didn't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and we're not going to harp because I don't like focusing on negative stuff for too long. But
No, yeah,
no, you're doing great, dude. You're doing great, because it's one of those things that, like, if people expect, like I said, people when they look at the match play section, expect certain balancing things, and they're just not present here. So it's important to address those. I'm not an only positive guy, but it's kind of is to me like there's a lot of great ideas, but the way that they flesh it out, even stuff like, for example, when your other waves come in, like you split your army into 3 pieces, when those other pieces come on the table between turn 1 and 2, sometimes there's not enough room for the size of bases that GW sells, and so the book actually says hang your model off the side of the table, and it's like, no,
yeah,
never.
that
I'll fight you. And the picture they have is an ironclad, which, if you don't know, is a massive ship for the Carriage and Overlords, and it's like, no Carriage and Overlord player has ever said that that's a good idea. So that's silly.
Might have been part of their plan was to have you hang it over the edge, and then it'd have to fall and break, and you'd have to buy another one. So it'd be double dipping.
Yeah. In addition to that, there's no measurements for any of the missions, like in terms of where the objectives are and your deployment zone. And the reason for that is they left it open for you to use any table size you want, basically. And that becomes an issue when you're trying to measure things out. If you have, they're like, oh, you can play on your coffee table, but the making equally distant objectives and stuff becomes very difficult very quickly.
Yeah. I have an oblong shaped coffee table. It is not going to work.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like, if they had put it in the narrative section, that would not be a problem, right? Because narrative players have been doing that for forever, because none of those missions make sense on a 6x4.
No.
A lot of the missions that come in like battle tomes, they're difficult to measure out. So I feel like that style of play makes way more sense, but
yeah. And if you're going for like setting up in match play, you'd think you'd have a uniform set for it, because I feel like they want it to be run at tournaments. And you should have a
and honestly, like if it had specifics that allowed it to be a match play thing, meaning truly asymmetrical, and you and your opponent could be on even ground, I would love to see it at events. Yeah. In its current state, it just doesn't have enough gas in the engine on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so that's kind of our high level thoughts. I mean, you can go ahead. Do you have anything else you want to say about it, like before we get into how to fix it?
Nope.
Okay.
I was gonna bring up how to fix it. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
perfect.
So let's just go back and forth here. What's one thing that you think would really, really help, or we'll say fix it, but conversations that you can have with an opponent that would improve kind of your game experience?
Well, I mean, I think my big thing would be just whoa, lost my train of thought. it. How
You
would
want
I
me to go?
describe this? Yeah, go.
Okay, no problem, no problem. It happens sometimes, totally. So for me, I think the biggest thing is making. I think first of all, it should be moved to the narrative play section in the next GHB.
Yes.
As far as how to improve the actual like gameplay, I really do think that setting out some measurements to make the armies clash faster is super important. One of the games I've played 5 games now of it, and one of the first game I played was Jack Really Once. He had Carriage and Overlords, and I had the Stormcast Vanguard stuff.
Yeah.
And I realized turn one, with the way that the units deploy and that kind of stuff, if I did not go to Jack and get in the range of his guns, he would do nothing the entire game. We played on a 4x4. Because my guys, my Paladors and all that stuff, they can all teleport. And so the Paladors can ride the Wind Etheric, and then the Lord Aquilor can teleport with people because of his command ability. So I learned really quickly that's like, well, that's going to be the least fun thing. These only go to like turn 3 or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be real boring.
Yeah, and so I purposefully put myself in the range of his guns. He shot me off the table. But it was more fun than, like, I threw him the win, but it was still more fun than him plodding along 4 inches every turn. Where if you had specific measurements that brought the armies closer and forced you into, like, rapidly getting into engagement with your only 3-turn game, that would go a long way.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. Did you think of something?
Yeah. So so I feel like with the limitations, I feel like they're in between of where either they should be either give less restrictions or have more, because either me taking a Keeper of Secrets when I took it did some work against some of the lower cost on the board units, and my opponent didn't really have anything they could bring to face it with how high their army cost was. They couldn't bring their big guys and fulfill the requirements. So it's either they need to have less of a restriction or more. I feel like they're just sitting in between.
Now, the Keeper's Secrets is a behemoth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It was kind of mean to bring, but that was my first game with it. It just that and the 3 points for killing more and then having the objective adding more points is just kind of, I think that's where the points start to run away. Is if you have the objective, you're probably already winning.
Yeah, so a lot of I think it's every one of the missions basically. It's like when you're counting up victory points, there's like your objectives that you're trying to hold, but then also it's like, hey, you get this bonus. You get victory points if at the end of the battle round whoever killed the most, basically. So it kind of integrates kill points with objectives. Which, if you were to be like, hey, Doug, here's an idea, I'd be like, that sounds amazing. But then when it actually plays out, and I think when it compounds some of the problems that we were talking about with other parts of the game system, it's a runaway. You're totally right.
Yeah. I think those I mean, moving forward, if I play it again, I'm just gonna either decrease the value for it, because three is a lot of victory points to get on top of the objective. So either decrease the value or just take it away.
Yeah, and then when your opponent only has 2 turns, assuming at most after that to catch back up, that's huge.
Yeah.
I think, and yeah, totally. Okay, so you would change the restrictions. That makes total sense. How would you do that? Like, would it be like you can't have units over this many wounds or something like that? Like, how would?
Yeah, I wouldn't take like any of the behemoth type things really because I picture it as a skirmish game with small units going out, but I understand that kind of limits like Beast Claw Raiders and everything. So, in all fairness to them, I would just say you take whatever you want up to 1,000 points.
It's just 2 pages of rules and limitations, and then it just the asterisk is like, if you're a Beast of Chaos player, just don't read this.
Yeah, yeah,
I like it. Cool. So okay, so it's back to me. Things that we can do to improve it. Um, well, if they're gonna keep it in the match play section, I think having different mission types, like for example, some of the missions, if you modified them from Forbidden Power, are still match play viable, but they're very interesting. My favorite one, and I just gush about this mission, where basically there's 6 objectives, and when it comes to turn priority roll, if you go second, you get to take one of those off the table. So you can take away objectives from your opponent, or ones that they captured, or ones that you have open. And so you can dictate how things are scored. And so if you did that with 3 objectives in a smaller game format, that's huge. Because that way no one can camp on things. Everyone's constantly moving. So I think that would be a really cool mechanic to bring into such a small system, where small meaning number of models and the battlefield size. When you can start to pull away what's important, I think that would be far more impactful.
yes,
So yeah, objectives or mission design, I think, would be making it different from the 2K games. Personally, I want them to be more narrative, but again, like I said, I started this whole thing with saying it should be in the narrative section, but I'll stop beating that drum.
oh, I 100% agree. I feel like this should have been a narrative game setting. I feel like it just lends itself so well to that.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. I'm looking at some of the missions here right now. So they have one of the thing about the since my thing was missions, I'll kind of piggyback on that and just say the way that they have the waves coming in, as far as like your main body, vanguard, rear guard, all that kind of stuff come in. I wish there was a better way to like visually communicate that other than how they did. So if you haven't seen the pictures of them, basically it's just M, S, and R, and it says start turn 1 and turn 2 next to them. So it kind of tells you like what side do they come in.
Yeah,
But it's very strange. Like they have you going in on weird table sides, and of course you have to be on the table edge within an inch. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. Yeah, I don't know. Also, go ahead. Also, on that thing on that note where your reinforcements come in, nothing says that you can't come on the table within 3 inches of an enemy. So you could just show up and get punched in the face by something.
yeah. No, that was a big thing too when I was talking about. I was like, so I could just come in and you just wipe me out right away.
Yeah, exactly. So I just walk in and I just shoot you in the face and kill you. Yes. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. I love games like that.
Yeah. Totally. What I will say. Oh, sorry. Do you have any more? What's your next way to improve?
So you said missions, and objective design. I had something I got. Keep getting sidetracked.
It's all good. At the same time.
Yeah. It's I mean, overall, I think a big change would be just mission variety because, as I said at the beginning, it just felt like it. Yeah, it feels like a just 2K missions,
Yeah.
or a 1K game.
Cool.
I feel like that needs to be changed up. I also kind of feel like that way for match play 2K games too. I feel like they should have different missions, but this one, like they had all license go out and get crazy with missions, and it's just go capture the objective again.
Yeah. I think there could be definitely a lot more design space. So, right on.
I think it's going to. I think it's like this is just the groundwork for what they're going to do in the future, though.
Totally, and that's the thing. We had a lot of corrections and that kind of stuff. Ways to improve, not corrections, but improvements. And but the truth of the matter is, the reason I want those things to happen is because I think they hit a solid nerve when they came out with the idea of like 1K game formats. Like I think that's a thing that needs to happen, like dedicated 1K formats.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited about the idea. And there are some cool things, like having it be its own deal. Like army, from army design to playing the game is fundamentally different. Like, yes, I'm on board 110%. It's just they made a bunch of concessions to fit it into match play, and they made concessions to make it work with any game size table, and there's no measurements involved. It's like, well, those things are contradictory.
Exactly. Yeah.
So pick one, and then whatever you pick, lean hard into it, and I'm sure we'll love it. But riding both streams just doesn't quite pan out. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I want to love this game setting. I was really excited for it, and then it's almost there. Just they're not huge corrections or like things to fix. It's just it's minor stuff at this point to make it fun.
And it's one of those things. Like I talked earlier about how it reminds me of when AOS first dropped. And there's still a lot of like loosey goosiness with the what we'll call it that missions and armies and here's the thing is I have never had as much fun since the GB came out as I did before it, and I was just having a conversation about what kind of game I wanted to have with my opponent.
Yeah,
and I like the GHB. I think it was super important for the hobby, but I miss those games where it's just like having a conversation beforehand of like, what kind of wacky things do we want to have happen? And if you're cool with that, this format offers a lot. If you say to your opponent, hey, I'm not going to have my, $100 and whatever bloodthirster hanging off the side of the table. He's going to go as far in as he can. Your opponent's going to be like, okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
You just make your house rules. Like, we get a 3-inch deployment when our reserves come in. We can't deploy within 9. These are the measurements. This is what we're going with, and just kind of like make the game your own.
Speaking of house rules, did you use the terrain rules when you were setting it up?
You mean the terrain rules as far as like the new ones, including the new ones?
Yeah, well, the ones that they tell you to use.
Let's see here. Which ones they tell you to use? You mean when you say terrain rules, you mean as far as like the primary list and like from the Citadel lineup?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you use any of those?
No, we rolled for everything. If you don't know, like in the book, it kind of gives you like suggested terrain. It's like your primary thing is Azurite Ruins, Baleful Realm Gate, Citadel Woods, the Throne, and Archway. No, we didn't do that.
Yeah, I haven't used any of those either. I wasn't sure if maybe that had any effect on it.
No, I mean, because the actual terrain kits, if you look at their War Scrolls, they're just weird combinations of existing rules. Like the things that you roll for are just in weird combinations for the most part. Like the only one that I love is the Realm Gate. Anytime I can take a Realm Gate, I'll use a Realm Gate. But yeah, no, we didn't go for that. Mainly because people who play at a game store, not every game store wants to invest in their hobby room having all of this stuff. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. So it's interesting. There are some faction terrain bits and some rules upon armies that can, like my Stormcast can arc in from lightning from the sky. Some rules about that, but I don't know. For the most part, it does pretty good on that kind of stuff. It's just the missions for the most part and the measurements make it kind of strange. So, but tell me why you were excited about it when you heard about it. Like, what do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a match play thing or narrative or what? I
can make match play things into narrative things quite easily because I just tell a story to myself. That's fine. I was expecting an actual like army skirmish game. I get because I didn't get to play fantasy battles. I was kind of hoping to something like that when I was first hearing about 1,000-point skirmish.
So fantasy battles was pretty massive. Do you mean like the Path to Glory, like the small formats for fantasy battle type things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was hoping for something like that, and I mean, I guess that was probably a little foolish of me to think something like that, but I mean, it sounded cool.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
I mean, for me, I was excited for, just honestly, just time. I was excited for having faster games, having the same experience of fun and making memories with weird, wacky things just in a
yeah,
shorter time span. And the games are definitely shorter. I mean, they won on that, but at the expense
definitely
of.
delivered.
Yeah, but I just really feel like runaway victories are too easy with the whole, like, being able to pop up in someone's grill,
Yep.
basically. So it's very easy to achieve, like a runaway win, and make it very unfun for your opponent. And the missions don't lend themselves to being fun to me. But yeah, I was very excited about it. And so that's the thing where it's like there's so much potential. It would not take much in the next GHB for them to be like, here's a new version, and either go hardcore match play. Here's your exact measurements. It's brutally quick because you only have 3 turns to get this exact distance next to an objective. Like, lean into the match play thing, and I'm sure it'll be very quick and efficient.
Yeah,
Or go the other way and just be like, it's now a narrative thing. Use points to balance stuff out. But here's some more interesting narrative missions. And so, but the bones are there. It's just getting the format to kind of like lean hard into one thing and really embrace it.
yeah. I really what I'm hoping for, and this might be again foolish. I'm hoping they use White Dwarf because I know they keep using White Dwarf for a lot of 40K stuff.
Yeah.
So just just get White Dwarf to publish some things for it. That'd be cool.
That's an interesting idea. I hadn't considered that. So, like, that'd be even better because then you could have a white dwarf that's like, here's how to make this format more matched play-y, and here's a format to make it more, I don't know, narrative-y, I guess.
Yeah, and then you don't even have to worry about the GHB. You just got those White Dwarfs out there.
Or
And
yeah,
then
or I mean, just use them as beta tests in the next GHB.
go with what people like. Yeah,
That'd be kind of cool. I like that idea.
GW, if you're listening.
I don't know if they listen. I have to imagine. I mean, I don't know. I have to imagine somebody does.
They got a lot of people working for them.
One of those nerds has to like Warhammer lore.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay. Well, do you have any closing thoughts about meeting engagements? I almost said open war. I don't know what happened with to my brain right now.
I mean, they should. They should. I personally would like them to lean more towards the open war cards with them. I love those cards.
Maybe, I don't know, it's like a Sigmund Freud flip thing where it's just like, you want them to do this, Doug.
I liked how fast it was. I think there's a lot of potential in the future for it. It's just that right now it just feels there's like the base idea, more or less like a test. This is like a test run to see what people think and probably want.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I think that's probably a good way to look at it. I would have loved if they had put like, made it more of a community thing. Like, hey, this is going to be in the GHB. Let's test it. Give us some feedback, and we'll make it an official format. Like,
oh, that would have been great. Yeah,
like a beta. Because I think that would have had people. When you include your fan base like that, I mean, all of a sudden people are going to start coming up with their own missions and doing that kind of stuff just to make it work, because everybody wants to be the guy who came up with the solution.
Oh, if they did that, you could have ended up with like narrative missions and match play missions, and it could have fit with any of them.
Yeah,
but,
So one day, I think there's something about them that's scared for beta testing. They don't seem to have much interest in it. I don't think they did it with the sisters, I think, but I think that's about it. So
no, I'm sure they probably don't want people criticizing or complaining or be like, "Oh, this is garbage," and just throwing a lot of bad press out there, type of stuff. Not that anybody on the internet would ever do that.
No, I know, yeah. Who complains about things on the internet as we just finished a 40-minute rant? I do think the format has a lot of redeemable qualities, like the promise of short games where you can get that flavor for Age of Sigmar in a shortened time span. Like it's a tall order, but it's one that's worth working at.
Yeah.
And I like the direction they went as far as like splitting your armies up. It's just a very different. It feels like it's its own thing, but all that gets taken away with the mission. So it's just like, nah, keep being original. Like you got a cool thing, stick with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Should have just kept going.
Yeah. So
I, I'm like splitting up the armies is fun. It's interesting. Just it needs more.
totally, Billy.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just
it's other than keeping track of more, they didn't lean hard enough to like get the full flavor out of it.
yeah. It's just like the staggered deployment open war option
Yeah,
that you can have later.
totally. Okay, awesome. Do you have any closing thoughts you want to tack on there before we head out?
No, I think that was my closing thoughts.
Okay, yeah. A lot of potential. Very interested to see how it changes in the future. And I'm excited for it. I'm sure that they will improve it and make it a cool format. I have no doubt. It was just a swing and a miss the first try.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back here chatting with one of my patrons, Patreon, which actually you are as well. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Oh gosh, yeah. We love having you on. And again, go check out Mars Mini Painting. He has a cool little community on the Instagram, and go ahead and join in the conversation there. So, want to say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody.
Catch you soon.
Okay, later.
Today's other sponsor are the patrons over on Patreon who do their best to keep 2+ Tough and this podcast going. I'm incredibly grateful for each and every one of them, and if you would like to join the discussion over on Patreon, get access to things like polls for which books we review, and to become a guest on this show, head over to patreon.com/2+Tough. And don't forget to join our Discord community. Thank you all so much for listening. Now let's get back to the show. Hey everyone, I'm here back with Andrew, and Andrew is one of my patrons on Patreon. I'm eternally grateful for you, and go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, I'm Andrew Neves. Probably don't need the last name, but
It's all right.
I've been watching Doug's videos for a long time now. Like, I think I joined up when I was still like under 100.
Yeah.
Or 200. I remember the 200 mark being like, whoa. But no, yeah, I've been watching your stuff for a long time. When you upload your Patreon, I decided to just support it because you make quality content, and it's well worth the watch, and very, very eye-opening to new people heading into the setting.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that.
From a personal point.
No, I super appreciate it, and so I'm gonna go off on a limb and say that you play AOS. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I used to play a lot of 40k, especially when the new edition for that dropped,
Sure.
And over time I just kind of switched over to AOS because I've always liked fantasy a bit more than sci-fi, so it's a really nice transition for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you wanted to chat to me tonight about kind of like our ideas surrounding the upcoming Age of Sigmar role-playing game.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell me why that interests you. I mean, you can. Well,
specifically, I where I go to play my wargaming and my local club, they also run D&D campaigns and like role-playing board games on other days as well.
Yeah,
and I got into that for a little bit when I was really, really burnt out, and like it just piqued my interest into role playing. And they have literally all the 40k role play books up to date, and most of the fantasy role play up until I think the latest one. They don't have the latest one, but yeah. So like, they're big into their role play, and I just spent some time reading through the books, and recently made friends with someone at work who's just super into D&D.
Mm-hmm.
He loves it, and I know he's kind of gotten me infused with a little bug for a bit more personal stories within fantasy universes, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And so on the last episode, Why Reforging, I mentioned, so my guest Mark was like he's a big D&D guy. It's all what he talks about. And so I had mentioned to him, much to his horror, that I've never actually played a role playing. But let me ask you this. So like, since you were playing 40K and Age of Sigmar, what was it that I guess hit the right button for you to really enjoy role playing? Because I'm trying to understand like the
transition.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay. So I had a moment where it was more of like a trigger moment.
Okay.
Where I had a moment in a game where I was playing some Stormcast against Demons of Khorne, just Khorne,
Okay.
a Khorne list, for a campaign we were running, and because I just like to run unorthodox stuff, I just got smashed. But despite being absolutely destroyed across the field, I had one unit of 5 Vanguard Hunters who lasted till the end of the game, and the last Eternal in that squad faced down a Khorne Bloodthirster, Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirster for 3 rounds. So 6 rounds of combat.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was just like, I want to know what that guy does in his spare time. Like, like how many push-ups does he do to be able to do that? Like he pushes the world. He must.
Yeah.
Like that is secretly Atlas.
I like that.
But yeah, like that kind of clicked me in. It was just like this guy is awesome. And I'd love to play that guy as that guy as just as like a one-off like role-playing game and see what his life is like, or like
see I get that so much more than people saying like, oh, we just run away to a magical world or something like that. You're kind of the escapism aspect, but like saying I saw a scene that just filled me with curiosity, like that makes so much more sense to me of why people like role playing. Okay, cool. I just wanted to ask about that.
And like with my experience with role playing is just a lot of goofy things happen, like and it turns in my experience has turned my relatively unknown group of people that I've been playing with, because I barely knew the role playing guys when I started playing. And as we got further into the game, more sessions, I got to know them really well as well, and it was a very good bonding experience for myself and that group. And like I feel through those goofy things and like this mutual love for seeing what these people do outside of fighting, because like I can play a game of 40k, I can see the battle go down, these characters or these units, because it's so, in comparison to role playing, it's so depersonalized, I guess. Like it's
I get that.
It's a wider scope, so you don't get the individual moments in contrast to that, the individual moments that do happen stand out so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the general doesn't feel the drama of every single soldier underneath them, right? It's kind of that view, right? The zoomed out, higher up you go. Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. And so if you guys didn't know who were listening, the company Cubicle 7, I believe is what it's called. Yes, I just double checked. Is publishing, or they've been working on a Warhammer Age of Sigmar specific RPG. They've actually made the fantasy battle ones.
Yeah, and the Lord of the Rings, I believe, too.
Yeah, and so they're pretty renowned for like their RPG systems and ways to get people engaged in the game. And so this would actually be, if I'm not mistaken, aside from crummy apps that they put out, one of the first like major uses of the Age of Sigmar IP, because like the other stuff's all fantasy battles.
Yeah.
And so all we have at this point is like a few kind of leaks,
They've
stuff like that.
Released a couple promos, and I think they released a Facebook article on having an Idoneth Deepkin a specific Idoneth Deepkin character. I think it was the Soul Scryer.
Okay. Right on. Yeah, I've known the Sylvaneth. There was a Fire
Like a
Slayer.
branch witch.
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
definitely a
Yeah.
branch witch because she has the big slug going around her.
Yeah.
And so there's some really cool stuff happening. And so let's just chat. Let's just wish list and just kind of ask what
Yeah.
we're looking for. You know what I mean? So as someone who has played role playing games, like what are you excited about when you hear Age of Sigmar RPG?
When I hear Age of Sigmar RPG, I look at fantasy as, while I respect, I entirely understand and respect the idea of having getting your human point of view in this totally alien landscape.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the fantastical escapism element
Oh yeah,
as well, and I really want to see what it'd be like playing a Sylvaneth
yeah,
or like I just said it just before, an Idoneth Deepkin, or when they finally release, or like, because they've said they're going to release like expansions for Chaos and Death and Destruction.
mm-hmm.
There's a interview that they had on their page or something. I can't quite remember, but the main writer was like, yeah, we've got expansions planned for Chaos, all the realms, for Destruction and Death characters.
Yeah.
I want to see what it's like to be this grief-stricken ghost, or or it's crazy bone splitter auric. Like, I want to know what those like out there concepts feel like when you're personally invested in them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, while you were just saying that, I found a list of the confirmed like classes, archetypes they have. So we have the Knight Quester and the Knight Incanter from the Stormcast. So that's the random knight who's wandering around, and the Incanter is a sacrosanct wizard.
Yeah, the fighter and the wizard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Rune Smiter from the Fire Slayers, and Ether
so
Chemist from the Carriage Overlords. Yep, so these are techie.
So yeah, it's like I'm just trying to like compare it to D&D, since that's what I've been
that makes
looking
perfect
into
sense.
right now. It'd be like an artificer for the Aether Chemist, and be like a druid or priest for almost like a cleric for the Fire Slayers.
That's what I would imagine. That's kind of what they turned him into in this last book. And the Tidecaster, like you said, for the Deepkin.
Oh yeah, the Tidecaster and the Soul Scry, I believe.
Yeah,
they've like released like a week ago as a thing on their Facebook page.
We have a Witch Elf from the Daughters of Cain.
Ooh.
Excelsior War Priest of the Devoted of Sigmar, which she's kind of like a warrior monk. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And a former Free Guild soldier of the Free People. Kurnoth Hunter of the Sylvaneth.
Okay.
And a Skink Star Priest of the Seraphon.
Ooh, that'd be very interesting to actually look at too. Ooh.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of strange stuff. I mean, so that's awesome. It sounds like you have plenty to be excited about, like forging stories and that kind of stuff, for sure.
I'm curious because I'd like to pick up the book, obviously, when it releases, but I'm curious to see how the game develops as well, apart from just the core book. So how they expand the universe and how they do different factions or different realms, and how because they've also put like a really big emphasis on like ordinary life, role playing, like ordinary, go eat your dinner, sleep for 12 hours because you're just tired from work, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's I think a common complaint, I mean, just as someone, like I produce AOS lore videos, and so I see the vitriol and backlash and negativity that people have towards it in the comments. One of the most common complaints is that it just doesn't feel real because this all feels so extreme, right? And the landscapes are so vast. Well, it's like, well, if you have the right materials for a role-playing game, like you're equipping functionally dungeon masters to make like small scale places that do feel real. And so even though I'm not going to play it a whole ton because I don't have a gaming group, I think a couple of the guys from Rerolling Ones want to play real bad, but like I'm going to use that toolbox and make videos out of it, like, because it's exactly what it's for, making the world small.
Yeah, well, as I said, one of my friends is really getting me into D&D, and he wants to. We just yesterday, I think it was, we all finalized a group. It was like 4 of us now, and he's running as DM for the first time. Dungeon Master is for the first time, and I'll be playing 5th edition for the first time. And the only experienced person's been the guy who's been playing for a few years, and he's just like he'll be dropping in and out. So it'll be mostly the joke is the blind leading the blind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what a lot of groups I see is. That's fine.
Yeah, and I've just been like with the world, relating it back to world building. I've been building the world for him because I used to do a lot of fantasy writing of my own.
Oh yeah,
and I've been like, because he wants to create something personal but not like out of a book, sort of thing. So I've been like running him through how to build, how economies work and world building, and just how to do like logistically have a functional world, and build world building with him. And like he's seeing how this overarching look at like 4 big city states are opening up to like small plot points. So he's like, oh, so this big urban center could suddenly have a cult rise up.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that would be an amazing campaign idea. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Like, I give you a sandbox,
yeah,
and you make a castle.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So yeah, I'm very excited about that kind of stuff. When I think about the things that I want from an RPG book, even as someone who doesn't play it, like I said, giving tools to understand things, which then I can use to do whatever I want with, is so like I feel like battle tomes, they don't go deep enough into like the feels of an army all the time. Some do it better than others, but like for example, like so we moved to Seattle from Iowa, small town in Iowa called Ames, and I could tell you the demographic of Ames, the medium income, the racial, demographics, that kind of stuff, and I can give you all the information about it, but it doesn't tell you what the people are like their values and that kind of stuff. And so I feel like with some battle tomes, that's how it is. But looking at that list of characters, it's like, well, and I can tell you names Iowa. I left my car unlocked all the time. Why? Because we trust each other, and it was just a nice community where everyone looks out for one another. And if someone's pulled over on the side of the road, you stop and you ask them if they need gas. It's just nice people. They're good folk.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't come through on any kind of.
You can't read that in a book.
Exactly. It's a feeling. And so when I think about an RPG thing, it's like, tell me how a fire slayer thinks about things, or how, the reason I always say that the Free People book is the most important is because we understand the way they think. But an RPG book is a way to let us understand how other things think. It's just the Free People is the most convenient because we're already thinking like humans. But if you give us the tools to be like, this is a Sylvaneth, this is how I view the world, like that's huge. For folks.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that's got me really, really excited for this. I think it's called Soulbound now.
Let's see,
Soulbound, or is it Soul something Soul? I keep thinking Soulstorm because of Dawn of War, but I'm just like, no, Andrew, stop.
Soulstorm. That was the weakest of those expansions, man. It's all about Winter Assault.
I know. Was it?
No,
it's Winter Assault's the Winter Assault one. Soulstorm's the Sisters of Battle and Dark Eldar one. That was my favorite because I was just like, Sisters of Battle, this is my love.
That's awesome. Yeah. They do have some crazy artwork of a bunch of like heroes all fighting, duking it out against maybe they set it up as maybe they set up a basic mission where like the main protagonist or the villain is Nagash and Undead. There's a bunch of artwork with them. So I mean, I'm pumped about it. Like the thing is like when people say like, oh, Age of Sigmar has no lore, it's like, because it took Fantasy Battles 30 years to get where they are. It's like, man, this could accelerate things so well.
It's actually one of the discussions I've had at the club, because we have a lot of former fantasy players. Is like the scale of the world was starting to be filled. Like it wasn't that it was full and there was plenty more stories to tell, but you could see there was an end in sight.
Yeah.
And as seeing it from a writer's perspective, because I did so much fan fiction for so much different stuff. Like being limited by lore is really hurts from a book's perspective, from a writing's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You eventually have this world that's full, and it's like filling up a teacup slowly, but eventually that's just going to overflow, and you're not going to be able to contain all the things that you want to do with your world. And that's how I looked at it. It's like it's a necessary thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Like
absolutely.
the switch over from fantasy was, in my opinion, a necessary thing to give this blank slate setting where you can have the freedom to fill it with whatever you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm down with that. I mean, I started playing Fantasy Battles 9 months before it went away, so it's like I don't have the nostalgia connection, or even
Yeah.
most when people type in the comments lore references, I don't know. I honestly, I just it goes over my head. But I mean, I just the fact that it opened things up to where we can truly tell whatever story we want. You think about the books they've published, and like we fought the undead, we fought chaos, we fought a god beast that was the size of a mountain range. You know what I mean? Just like ridiculous stuff, and it's just like
Yeah.
anything in between.
Yeah, and like and it opens up a lot more options as more books are released as well. Like I'm looking forward to seeing a Goblin book, Gloomspite Gitz book, or like a novel based around Gloomspite Gitz, because that would be really cool, I think, and zany, and it's kind of like the out there thing that I want to get in, like that I want to go to get away from my day to day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's see here. I'm trying to think of anything else. Is there anything that from an actual game perspective, right? We'll move away from the lore because I mean, yeah, that's about the mechanics. Like, what are some things that you hope to see or not see when it drops?
Well, something that has like worried me a bit, but that's all. But it's also coming from like a D&D background. In my background in RPGs is D&D or video games. Is the reliance on like six D6s.
Okay, yeah,
And I like it's not that I want like D20s or D50s or just the ridiculousness that can be D&D. But like seeing a slight variation in dice, like maybe put in like a D8 or a D10 just for odd things. I really like the way Blackstone Fortress played out.
yeah,
Because it was very interesting and left like the original game itself. I see it as like an engine for a video game where you have the ability to put in modules and make it more interesting, or put in more mechanics, but it gives you a solid base to go off of. It's like it gives you like this foundation to build up with other like expansions and stuff like that. I want to see the same kind of mechanics put into that, where it's like it gives you a good foundation with set like certain dice and how character interactions occur, but I want to be also added onto.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just that make it expandable, simple as a base, and then expandable. Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. I think for me, definitely a reoccurring thing is like looking at that cast of characters that we know are in that they confirmed. My first gut reaction, knee jerk thing, is to be like, how are they going to make a Stormcast different from a human? And by that I mean, like the human should be super weak and puny, and the Stormcast should be all that in a bag of chips. But there should be a reason to want to play the human. It gets hard, you know what I mean? Especially because they've focused on the Stormcast as if you play AOS, your fixed perspective, like they are the de facto faction instead of humanity. So I want the Stormcast to be lightning demigods that are crazy awesome, but they also can't be too powerful, and they can't be so powerful that another part of another race in your pool, archetype in your pool, just seems redundant. Like,
Yeah.
no one's going to choose a worse Stormcast if that's all the human is. So,
It's true. Actually, again, of course I'm going to relate this back to D&D because
it's RPGs. It's whatever.
It's what I know. So it's like, to me, it seems like playing a Warforged like android construct as a fighter as opposed to a human fighter, which is actually something that came up in my previous D&D campaign where I played originally a human fighter and got turned into a Warforged. Yeah, it was brutal.
That's funny.
And essentially, the Warforged have their own unique set of like abilities, I guess.
Yeah,
They're bigger. They're stronger. They're heavier. They hit harder, but they're not as adaptable. And that's like, I'd like to see that with Stormcast. Like, these Stormcast are there to fight in a very specific way and fulfill a very specific role, whereas I'd like to see a free guild human be able to fulfill a versatile range of roles as opposed to be railroaded into being a light wizard with a knight incantor or just this superhuman, almost barbarian fighter.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Is this the trade-off for the power is your ability to do things. So eventually you'd come down to like relying on your free guild soldier to pick a lock that the Stormcast couldn't break through a door, or because there's
so he's more like a utility piece rather than the powerhouse. Powerhouse. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm down with that.
It's like the difference between a ranger fighter and a barbarian. It's like a barbarian just front ups, stands in place, and just charges them. Whereas a fighter will try to do a little bit of finesse, or a ranger will like go even further down, like a technical outside thinking way of, and try to think outside the box to solve the problem instead of brute force it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, so I mean, that's certainly like, I've actually covered a lot. I mean, based on the information we know, it should be out. I think the third quarter of 2019 is what the current.
Yeah, that was saying.
Yeah.
End of the year.
Yeah, basically, and that's awesome. So that means it should be, well, third quarter is coming up, right? It's getting there, a couple months away, but enough to get excited about. I'm kind of curious as to how GW is going to like really promote it, because they don't really promote a whole lot of like the other RPG stuff.
No,
which is weird.
It is curious. I do want to see how it like comes out, but seeing it through Warhammer Community would be a little bit like, that's surprising.
Yeah,
I'd expected to see it like pop up on Facebook groups and see it through your local club scene or something like that.
Yeah,
or promoted at your local stores, but not online, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're just kind of funny that way with their intellectual properties. So
yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to chat about the RPG?
Actually, something I did want to wish list. I so badly, if High Elves ever get a book or like a renewed kind of look at race, and like from what I've read in the rule book and from like what lore is out there, is like they might come back as like angelic beings, and or from what I can like that's what I've gotten from it. Okay. And for this new D&D campaign that I'm running, I've actually chosen like an angelic character to play as I'm playing like a samurai angel. like a samurai fallen angel who's a traveling merchant.
I love it.
It's like crotchety old man trying to sell you wares.
That's fantastic.
I'd love to see that sort of that. That's something I'd love to see is like the high elves come back into and be reintroduced into fantasy, sort of into AOS. That's like my big wish list for AOS in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's light elves. I think is just the artwork is what I'm excited about. I don't need a new army. I need a new army like a bullet in the head. But I would love to see the artwork for all the stuff that they're planning.
Oh yeah,
so.
Like demonic like shadow elves and like from Ulgu and like Malarians people.
Yeah.
Well, and then, like Tyrion's light elves. Oh my god, it's just oh.
And that's the thing is that once they make something in AOS like proper at Games Workshop, once you have the framework of the RPG system out, you can just make an expansion that includes things for them. And like at that point, the hard work is over, and then it's just adding to what you've already, which is obviously not easy necessarily, but I mean it's not the same monumental task. So that's exciting that we could have something for those factions that we've been wanting.
I was actually discussing this last night with I was just at a bookstore drinking with random people and my girlfriend, and we're just like, because we're all nerds and no, right? They actually uploaded photos of us drinking out of a cut in half plastic water bottle, just drinking wine out of it. It's hilarious.
Love
it. But I was talking about like I was talking about some games that actually like the process of making a game specifically, where designers you can't rush designers.
Yeah,
you can't like rush that inspiration. And because what were we talking about? We were talking about how we were let down by certain games. I can't remember, like video games specifically. But I gave him a really good example of how when it's done right and you support your designers in terms of their ability to create, it can really work out well. And there was this video game called Battle Brothers, released a fair few years ago. I think it's 5 years ago now. And they took a hiatus from making the game. They essentially created the base foundation and came back and added like 2 little DLC pieces. After their hiatus on working on other projects. The team split up and then came back together after working on their own stuff, and the quality of their work was incredible. It's just incredible.
Yeah, that's
to
awesome.
Like see. And I've always I know people are really impatient for AOS content, like in terms of like GW release books, army books and stuff like that. People are like clamoring for Free Peoples or Slaves to Darkness as a Dark Oath book and stuff like that. But I also believe like you have to like chill out and like let the creative process take its process, while like you have to let people do their job. Like put their absolute best into it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we see a lot, time and time again with the video game industry, and especially with something like this, where your task is to not fill in a sandbox, but equip tools and stuff like that for such a massive setting that
give them a spade and
yeah, exactly. So that's definitely accurate. Cool. Well, man, Andrew, thank you so much for all of your, first of all, just patron support. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Every single time I'm online, and thank you for coming on and talking about this. This is actually a topic that surprised me because, again, I'd never played a role-playing game, but I'm excited for this one because at least it's something that I would know enough to be able to like slip into.
Like relearning everything about D&D for me was hard. Like
totally.
Just getting my head out of like wargaming mode and into relating to a singular person was just like boggling to me for months.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited for it, and I'd love to have you on again when it comes out after we've both had a chance to play it. I know I'm going to be playing it with the Rerolling 1 guys. and
Fair.
we'll chat about it then. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Okay. Well, awesome. And I will
All
talk to you then, good sir.
All right. Have a good night. Yep.
Okay. There we go. We're all done. I'll end it there. Cool, man. Again, I just want to give you a heartfelt thank you for everything, and
No
also
problem.
just your patience with the scheduling.
Oh no, like I've had stuff happen last like a week that's like had me going crazy. That's why I haven't been replying. But I
Yeah.
also like get that like people have lives outside of stuff. It's fine.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, man, I hope to see you soon. This episode for this one interview will probably drop, I think, in about 2 weeks. I'm trying to I want to be every 2 weeks, so, and it'll still be spicy and fresh information then, I think, unless they drop something huge.
Oh yeah, I don't think they would. But,
No.
not this way.
So anyway, I will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right,
Yeah, bye.
see you, man.
And that is this week's show, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back soon. I want to say a special thank you to those 2 patrons who are on, just people who are excited about the hobby and just, fairly new to the game, but still really enthused about what Age of Sigmar offers us, and it was fun to just kind of discuss it from 1,000-point games to kind of the role-playing aspect. It was a great set of interviews, so thank you again so much. And you can look forward to a whole bunch of more content coming out for the 2 Plus Stuff YouTube channel, including a whole lot of stuff about Warcry when that's released finally. And we'll get some content going and some great discussions about Warcry, the role-playing game, all kind of the alternate, side story, if you will, games to Age of Sigmar. And I'm excited to talk about every one of them. So thank you all so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.